Today I'd like to continue our journey through the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 12. In this section of Matthew, we're going to get into some interesting confrontations between Jesus and some of the religious authorities concerning the origin of Jesus' powers of healing. There's some controversy about that, and Jesus is going to be challenged. And it's going to be interesting to see, well, how does Jesus respond to this challenge? And why does this particular challenge come up in terms of Jesus and his ministry? Let's up to verse 22 of chapter 12, and it says, "Then they brought to him a demoniac who was blind and mute. He cured the mute person so that he could speak and so that he could also see." So again, showing the tremendous powers of Jesus in terms of healing. And also the fact, again, that this person could now participate more in the community. We see this in so many of Jesus's healing works, that the purpose is not to really demonstrate his power so much as to restore people to the community from which they have been separated by an illness. Then in verse 23, we see the reaction of the crowd. All the crowd was astounded and said, "Could this perhaps be the son of David?" So again, now we have the crowd speculating about who Jesus is. And of course, with all of these teachings of Jesus and his miracles, that becomes the question. Well, this person from Galilee, from Nazareth, from this little town, who is he really? What is he about? What is happening here? They're astounded at seeing these great works occur. And they're wondering, well, exactly who is this person? And you can understand their astonishment and their speculation here about Jesus. I mean, this is unusual. It's happening in their midst. This is not something that they've experienced before, and they're wondering, well, what's this all about? So what about this speculation about Son of David? What is this title? What does this mean, Son of David? Son of David was a messianic title. So when you see someone being called a son of David, the claim is, well, could he possibly be the Messiah that we've been waiting for, this anointed one, this leader who is going to lead us into this new kingdom and establish this special time for us, this time of healing and renewal. So this title is associated with the healing power of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. Notice, though, the uncertainty of the crowds. They're hedging their bets a bit. They're saying, well, perhaps. So we're not exactly certain. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. They're kind of speculating a bit here about, well, what exactly is happening. So we can see this cloud of uncertainty here. And in verse 24, "But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, 'This man drives out demons only by the power of Beelzebul, the prince of demons.'" So the Pharisees have a very unusual reaction to what's happening. Perhaps it's because they've heard this title, the Son of David, and the speculation from the crowd. They want to quash it, keep it down. They don't want this title applied to Jesus. There's some maybe ill will here, and they're wondering, well, is the crowd being swayed too much by Jesus? And we've already seen their desire indicated to really put Jesus to death. So they don't want to see more adulation towards Jesus, more good feelings towards Jesus. They want just the opposite, really, because if the crowd is too much in favor of Jesus, it's going to make their challenge of putting Jesus to death much more difficult, obviously. And again, of course, the proviso is that this is not all the Pharisees. This is some of the Pharisees, a smaller group who is upset with Jesus. And it's interesting, their speculation. well, we've got to come up with an answer to what he's doing in terms of driving out demons. So maybe we can say, he drives out demons by the power of Beelzebul, who is the prince of devils. So he's using the devilish power to drive out devils. Beelzebul, well, how do we translate this? What does this mean? What's the history of the term? Beelzebub literally means the Lord of the house. So he is the chief of the demons, the house of demons. Beelzebul would be the chief. It could also perhaps refer to Beelzebub. Beelzebub, very similar in spelling and close in meaning somewhat. It's a Philistine deity, a god, who was literally translated the Lord of the Flies. So again, it would be a source of evil, or someone who was obviously a rival to the God of Israel, and someone who would really represent not goodness in terms of healing and curing. Example of this is in the second book of Kings, chapter 1, verse 2. Uzziah had fallen through the lattice of his roof terrace at Samaria and had been injured. So he sent out messengers with the instructions, "Go and inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover from this injury." So the idea is that perhaps Beelzebub would be able to help me. Again, it's the idea of using another god, not the God of Israel, but this other god. And at the time, we have to remember the time of Uzziah, and even later on, there were all these gods and goddesses around. Different people would immigrate into Israel, and they'd be surrounded, of course, by different tribes, not Jewish tribes, and they would all have their gods and goddesses, and intermingling with them were, of course, the Jewish people, and they picked up some of these gods and goddesses, and a lot of them would worship them and go to feasts where they would be celebrated, naturally going with their neighbors and having a good time at these feasts, a nice party, some nice wine, and some good food to eat made the situation really enjoyable for them. The Aramaic word Beelzebaba means the enemy. So again, very close in sounding to Beelzebul, and Beelzebub is this Beelzebaba, and this led to the association with the devil, since the devil, of course, the enemy of God. And the Pharisees, in doing this, are trying to really reduce Jesus in the eyes of the people. They're trying to reduce Jesus to a magician, somebody who can perform these tricks and perhaps use these other powers of these gods and goddesses in the surrounding area to do his tricks. So really nothing but a trickster, and of course magicians have both positive and negative associated with them. Some magicians, of course, do these wonderful tricks. Others are playing a trick on you. and so when you say somebody is a magician, maybe you're saying he's not that authentic, and you're trying to establish that this is not a really legitimate person. So in verse 25 then, but Jesus knew what they were thinking, and said to them, "Every kingdom divided against itself will be laid waste, and no town or house divided against itself will stand." So Jesus knows not only what they're saying, but even more so what they are thinking about him. He's saying, well, if there is this division, we're not going to be able to continue. Everything is going to collapse. And of course, this is always true. Where there is division in a group, there's going to be a problem. It can be, of course, plurality of opinions, but yet you stay within the group, within the context of the group. When you start to divide and split up, then you become much weaker. So Jesus is pointing this out, that, if I'm trying to proclaim to you the kingdom of God, and on the other hand you're saying, I'm partaking with the devil, this is not going to work. This kingdom is not going to continue. It's going to fall apart. It's going to collapse, because you have to be unified in your message. You have to be unified in what you believe, in order to continue, in order to even grow and have more strength. And of course, this seems like a very obvious uh, observation to us, but the Pharisees seem not to fully appreciate this. And even for today, applying to our own lives, of course, the importance of this teaching, the importance of unity, the importance of coming together, the importance of a common belief and supporting one another, even while there are differences of opinion and differences of understanding, but not to the extent that you want to go off and divide the group and go your own way, and make the group weaker. And this is the important thing, that you can still have respect for another person's opinion, but yet remain within the group and appreciate the fact that our unity and the things that we have in common are much more important than the things that divide us.